So our task is to make a Photoshop collage in a similar style to this Marvel one or this One Direction one. Now I don't really mind which one you do. You can do both if you really want to practice your skills. But I'm going to do the Marvel one. I'm not going to do the One Direction because the actual visual instructions here are all for that one, so you can follow those instructions there, or you can watch this video. It's entirely up to you. But I'm going to make one of these. I'm going to make the Marvel one. So the first thing I need to do is download the assets, the actual pictures I'm going to use. So I can download them here, or I can go down to the bottom of the page and just click the down arrows to download those particular files. I'm going to do it here from the table. Now, if I click on one of these, what happens is it opens a picture in a new window. So what I can then do, wait for it to download into the browser, and then I can drag that off like so. So that's one way to get the picture off. Another way of getting the picture off is if I right click or hold control down, press click, it'll bring up the contextual menu, and I can go save link as, and then I can choose somewhere to save it. So I'm just going to hit this twizzle, and I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to create a little folder. I'm going to call it Marvel. I hit create, and I'm going to save my Marvel logo into the Marvel folder. So there it goes, and if I look in the Marvel folder, there's that picture. So let's just drop that background in there, and let's get the rest of them. So control click and save link as. It's remembered the Marvel folder, so I'm just going to hit save. Let's do Iron Man, save, Black Widow, save link as, save. Let's get the Hulk, save link as, save. Let's get Thor, save link as, save. And the final control click on Hawkeye, and save link as, save, and there they all are. So if I look in my folder, there's all the pictures I'm going to need to make my collage. Now the first thing it says is put all of the separate pictures into Photoshop. So I've got Photoshop there, so I could either drag a picture on like that, or I could go File, Open, and let's go in the Marvel folder, and let's choose Captain America. I could choose all of them. I'm just going to choose Captain America, and I could click Open, and there's Cap out. And let's get the rest of them in a different way. I'm going to select them all by holding Shift, and if I right click or control click, I can choose Open With and choose Adobe Photoshop, and in they go. So it doesn't really matter which way you do it, as long as you get all of the pictures. And so I've got a picture of Thor, I've got the Marvel logo, got my Marvel background, I've got Iron Man, I've got the Hulk, and a few more. If I click there, you can see Black Widow, Captain America. Everything I need to do my collage is there. So there's my Marvel background. So what I need to do with my background is put each of the different characters in. So that's nice and easy. So all I'm going to do is select them. So let's start with Thor. And we looked at our selection tools last week. So we've got over here, we've got a rectangular marquee, elliptical marquee, other marquee tools there. I've got my lasso tool, my polygonal lasso, or my magnetic lasso. Again, we looked at those last week. Or I've got my quick selection and magic wand tool. So they're the three different options we've got for selecting. Now, cutting around this could be quite tricky because there's some fiddly bits and so on. So I might like to use something like the magnetic lasso. And let's click on his cape, and I could or follow him round. It's not doing a particularly good job, probably because I'm doing it very quickly, and that's dreadful. So let's just go select and deselect, so it's unselected. I think because of the curves, that's not a good choice, and the lasso tool, there's too much there for me to do neatly drawing it freehand. It's certainly not a regular shape, so rectangular or elliptical marquee tools are not good. So really, I'm going to go for my magic wand. Now you'll say that's not a good choice because these are all different colours. Well, you're quite right. So I'm going to click on the white, and it's now selected, you can tell by the ants, all of the white area around Thor. But what's this? What's gone on down there? It's gone inside the hammer, so it's not done a very good job with that either. So I'm going to go select and deselect. It is actually the right tool to use, but the problem is this thing here called tolerance. Now when we use tolerance, it's saying how forgiving is it for similar colours. And you can see that obviously white is quite similar to that, because that's white as well, but actually that's a very pale shade of green, of grey. So if I drop my tolerance to something like 5 and I click on the white, you can see now it's found the edge of Thor's hammer, and it has now selected all of the white area around Thor. I might just drop that down 25%. There we go. Now that's selected the white area, so if I did a copy and went to my Marvel background and paste, you can see I've got the outline, I've got the white, which isn't what I want. So what I actually need is Thor himself. So I'm going to go to select and inverse. So it swaps what it's selected. So it's now selected all of Thor. So I can go to edit and copy, and I can paste Thor onto my background. There he is, and I can do similar with all my other characters. So I'm going to do that in super fast time to get all of those in, except for one, and you'll see why in a moment. Now, Black Widow is the one that's going to cause me a little bit of a problem, because how do I select Black Widow when actually the background isn't one common colour? So if I try and use Magic Wand, you can see it's really struggling. It's getting strips of the colour because they're similar with that tolerance. I could try and increase that tolerance. Let's get 33. So it's selected a good chunk of the background, and you can see here I've got all sorts of problems actually selecting just Black Widow herself. So how do I get her? Well, there's lots of different solutions. If I hold shift, I could select more areas, so I'm adding extra selections to it. So I can select all the coloured areas, and then if I click in there and select the white, that should be everything. And if I go select inverse, it should just be Black Widow. So if I now go edit and copy, and let's go to our background, Marvel background, I can go edit and paste. There she is. And that seems to me to have done a pretty good job. So the next one that might be a little bit more interesting is our Marvel logo. Now I don't want this white box, I don't want this outer red, I just want the actual Marvel logo. So how do I do that? Again, I could probably get away with doing it like that and select inverse, or it might be just quicker to get the marquee tool, to get the rectangular marquee, click in the corner, highlight, grab, let's do that, let's copy that, and then I can go to my background and I can go edit and paste, and there's my Marvel background. And perhaps I could have been a little bit neater because there's a slight white outline there, but I'm not going to worry about that just at the moment. So there's all my pieces in there. So now what I need to do is just move them around and position them where I want them on the page. So to move them around and position them on the page, I'm going to use the move tool. So this is the move tool up in the corner, and so I should be able to move my Marvel logo to the side. I also want to rotate it, but how do I do that? Well, I need to show my transform tools. This will bring up my handles. I don't know if you can see, I've now got handles in the corner, and if I move my mouse to the corner, you can see it's got a rotate option. So if I choose that and I rotate and I hold shift, it should keep it nice and straight as I rotate, and I can put the logo into the corner. And if I think that's a little bit big, then I can resize it. So I might just drop it down to about that sort of height, and then just use the arrow keys to position it neatly into the corner. The next one you can see is too big, is the Hulk. So if I click on Hulk and try and move, you can see it's still moving the Marvel logo. That's just because I need to select the correct layer. Now Hulk's on layer 4, so if I just click and rename it, let's just call that Hulk, then I should be able to move the Hulk around, and again if I need to I can find the handles and resize it, except of course it looks like I did a bad job on my selecting. Looks like I forgot to get rid of the white around there, so don't worry, I'm just going to apply the transformation, use the magic wand tool, select the white, delete it, select deselect, and again let's get the transform tool and just resize the Hulk so he's a little bit smaller, fits on the page, and he's about the size of the Marvel logo there, and I'm going to plonk him pretty central in my picture, I think. Press return to confirm my change, otherwise it won't let me do anything else, and then I can perhaps, let's get and that's 4, so each of my characters are labelled, and I'm just going to make the Hulk a little bit smaller and move him up as if he's further away, but you can see his foot's in front of the cape of Thor, so I just need to move these around. So I'm going to move the Hulk, let's just hide the adjustments there, I'm just going to move the Hulk to in front of the background. Thor's there, Hawkeye can go behind Thor like that. Let's move Captain America across, and I think that's probably a good enough order, and I'm just going to move the logo behind everything. So there's my characters. Now they don't stand out very clearly, so I'm going to add a new layer down here. So this is the new layer at the bottom, so that's new layer. So I click that, and I'm going to fill this in white. So I'm just going to set my colours to black and white, swap that round so that my fill colour will be white. Click on the gradient tool, hold the mouse button down, and I can switch it to paint bucket, and let's fill that layer. And you can see it's in front of the logo. I want the logo in front of that, so I'm just going to move that layer. Let's just put logo. And this layer, I'm just going to change the opacity so that it just dims the comic a little bit behind it, so they stand out a little bit more clearly. I need these to stand out just a little bit more, and the way I'm going to do that is by putting a white line around the outside and adding a little bit of shadow. So let's do this with Thor, as he's nice and clear and obvious. So there's Thor. I'm going to apply a layer style or some effects. So I go down here and I choose effects, and I'm going to choose stroke first of all, and that's the line. And you can see, I don't know if you can see at all, there's a slight line around the outside of Thor. So if I play with this slider here, I can increase the size of the line around him, the thickness. So I probably think something like that. And I don't like the black, I'm going to change that to white. So there's a white border around him, and then I'm going to add a drop shadow. If I tick drop shadow, I don't see the options. I actually have to click on drop shadow, which puts the tick in and then gives me the options for the drop shadow. So I'm going to increase the distance of the shadow. So I don't know if you can see the effect of that. So there it is. I'm going to do that to probably about, that's probably about right, 35. Let's increase the spread, probably to about 15. There we go. And let's do the size, just to make it a little bit more blurry, probably around about 35 as well. So I get a nice little shadow around Thor. So he's done, and I'd like the same shadow effect on all the other characters, and the best way to do that is to copy the layer style from Thor and apply it to the others. So if I control click or right click on Thor, go copy layer style, I can choose Hulk, control click or right click and paste the layer style. So there's Hulk done. I could do the same to Hawkeye and do it to the others. So I'm just going to speed up through this and do the same thing to them. Okay, so they've all got their little white outlines around them. They've got their drop shadows, and that's all pretty good, apart from this wasted space here. Looking at it now, I'd probably like them just to be a little bit higher up. So to move them all at once, I need to select them all at the same time. So I'm just going to close up these effects just to make this a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. I'm going to hit Shift on each one, like so they're all selected. I can then use my move tool and move them all at the same time. And if I really wanted to, I could probably scale it as well. So perhaps I want them just a little bit bigger, like that. Maybe move it down, and that looks pretty good to me. So let's hold that there, and let's get rid of this waste at the bottom. So I'm going to use the crop tool, which is over in the corner here. So if I click on the crop tool, let's just click at the bottom of that Marvel logo, drag it all the way up. If I hadn't got that quite right, I could move this up and down, or move these, or rescale it using these. But when I'm happy, I just click enter or return to confirm, and there's my final Marvel collage, ready to be saved. So file, save as, and I can call it Marvel Collage, make sure it's a Photoshop, and click save. Then click OK. And then the next thing I want to do is make a version that I can upload into Google Drive. So I'm going to do that by going to File, Save As, and I'm going to change it from Photoshop to PNG, and then click Save. Click OK. And if I look in my folder, there's my two new pictures. So I've got my Photoshop document, and I've got my PNG.